Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger on the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, and the host of Clean Terminators on Orion Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Television. A lot to talk about this week here on the pod. Obviously, we're in the middle of the football playoffs, volleyball playoffs. We're down to two teams in girls volleyball. Big coaching news out of Ferndale. We're gonna break that down. So a lot to break down this week on this week's edition of the podcast. We're gonna review, of course, what happened in the district finals. We're gonna preview the regional finals for football. So a lot to talk about this week. So without further ado, let's start off with the our first topic here. Of course, breaking news out of Ferndale. Coach Eric Royal has stepped down, coaching the Eagles. He had a 51-53 record coaching the Eagles, and but the last few years, he's done a really good job, turning around that program over there, and I think he leaves a really good legacy at Ferndale. He texted me this, and he texted me the comments that he wrote. I put those in the blog at Saginaw-Bay-4050 at blogspot.com. So here were his quotes. After a long and thought-out process, I decided to resign from my head coaching duties at Ferndale after 11 years as head coach. It was not an easy decision. Ferndale football has been part of my life ever since I was a ninth grader. From playing my high school football there to coaching 18 consecutive years, 11 as head coach, it was very hard, and I'm going to miss it tremendously. But the time was right for my family and my other personal endeavors. As we move forward, I may look forward to joining staff if the right situation comes along. Royal was 52-50 in his 11 years at Ferndale. 22-8 record mark from 2016 to 2018. Won the blue title in 2017. So that tells you something right there. He led Ferndale back into the playoffs for the first time in a long while. They went 6-4 this year. They fell to Groves 29-14 in the first round. But you look at the accomplishments that Coach Royal has done for Ferndale. He's really done a magnificent job building the program, leading it through some good times, rough times, rough challenges. So basically, he's done a really nice job with the program over there at Ferndale. He's done a really, really good job with that program. And, I wish him the best of luck going forward in his future endeavors. And he's done a wonderful job turning this Ferndale program into a powerhouse in the Gold Division. He's led this team to the postseason. He's done a really good job building the Ferndale program, and he's going to always be one of those coaches that that turned around the program, built the program up, and delivered on his promises. Getting him into the playoffs, sharing a gold championship in 2017 with Avondale and Hazel Park. But he's done a really, really great job, and you look at the future for Ferndale football. It'll be very interesting to see. I'll be very curious to see how Coach Juan Rickman gets that team. How he gets how he hires a new coach coming in. Is it a Royal assistant? That's possible. Could it be somebody outside the box? We know Coach Juan Rickman has done a really nice job looking for talent, especially young talent, to lead his programs. And he's done a really nice job as athletic director. And you've seen the results for Ferndale Athletics. Volleyball, winning a district championship. They're going to have a very tough matchup coming up. With them, Detroit. They're going to have a really interesting matchup, but you look at, of course, what they're going to have in girls basketball. They're loaded. But as I mentioned, there's going to be some question marks with Ferndale when it comes to girls basketball. And then you look at boys basketball. He's done a really nice job getting a Division II state championship in the process too. But like I said, with the boys program there's some questions there. For football, he's done a really nice job. There's a lot of appeasing avenues when you look at this job. There is some challenging parts of this job. Obviously, the location, they got a new field over there at Ferndale. Their field's really nice. I mean, their football field is state of the art, and you really kind of say, when you look at the field, I mean, like it's one of the best when you look at it. So on a Ferndale girls volleyball, they do take on the Troy Edison in that month. So a very interesting matchup there. So we'll look at that one. But when I look at the success Royals had, he's done a really nice job. He's built that program. He's really done a nice job when you look at it. I mean, just the accomplishments that he's done. Got to give him props there. So, so when you look at the direction where they're going to go, I don't know what direction they're going to go. They lose a lot of senior experience. So whoever the new coach is going to be, he's going to have a real fresh start over there at Ferndale. Be very curious to see what direction he's going to take him. And who would fit over there? I mean, that's really the big question that I look at with Ferndale is that's going to be the key. And I think that's going to be where I think it's going to be when you look at the Eagles. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes over there. I mean, especially when you lose a guy like Royal, that's a big loss. And then you look at what's going to happen. I mean, Ferndale, when you look at them in football, I mean, they have a co-op with Ferndale University. So, obviously, so that explains why they're in Division II for the playoffs is because when you look at the enrollment part of it, Ferndale and Ferndale University, they combine their student athletes, so and their number of kids. So that's why you see Ferndale in Division II and not in Division III or Division IV. So so it'll be interesting to see who takes the job over there at Ferndale, who takes over for Coach Royal. There's going to be a lot he's got to fill. Do they go outside the box? Do they bring back one of their own? I mean, like, there's a lot of questions when I look at with Ferndale going forward. So it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, they're in a division with Avondale, Berkeley, Royal Oak, and Pontiac. So it'll be interesting to see, and also to build a program there. Of course, program strength has been one of the biggest concerns that I've had with Ferndale. The fact that they've only have one team is a concern. If they can build like their JV program or the freshman program, you know what I mean, then that'll be a good sign for them going forward. So, but like I said, congratulations to Coach Royal on a really nice year. Really nice 18 years, 11 as head coach. Wishing nothing but the best of luck going forward. And for Ferndale, it's going to be like, I think there's some good candidates over there at Ferndale. And I think athletic director and boys basketball coach Juan Rickman's going to find a really good candidate for this job. And I think that they're going to do a really good job heading into the future with these young student athletes over there at Ferndale. So congratulations to Coach Royal. Wishing the best of luck going into the future. So, all right, now let's look on the football here. Obviously, the state playoffs still going on. We're going to recap the district finals of each team here. Where everybody's at going forward. We're going to start off in Division III. Avondale taking on Walled Lake Western. This game was really tight until the second half when Walled Lake Western started pulling away. In that game, I talked to Sean Cotter, who is the film guy at Walled Lake Western. And he said Walled Lake Western played absolutely atrocious. And, and in the second half, it ended up being 28-0. Walled Lake Western showed why they're one of the top teams in Division III. For Avondale, their defense, their defense was heavy. I mean, they relied a lot on their defense. Offensively, there were some moments they looked really good. Defensively, they really just, defensively, defense could do everything they could. They did everything they could. But bottom line was in that game was you really have to look at in that game was just Wall Lake Western, they're a good team. They're a very good team. Um, and they did a really nice job shutting down the wing T offense, making Avondale have to become one dimensional, more throwing the ball. That's something that Coach Baumeier did not want to do. So give credit where credit's due. I mean, to Wall Lake Western, they're moving on to take on Mason in the Division III regional finals over at Wall Lake Western. Of course, for Avondale, there's a lot of questions. I mean, when you look at what them going forward, they do lose a lot on defense. They do lose Cooper Volfrey. They lose Justin Greer Sykes. So I'll be really curious to see what direction Coach Bob Meyer goes with Avondale. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what he does in year 3. So it'll be really interesting to see what Avondale does. I mean, obviously, program strength looks to be rising over there at Avondale. So it'll be really interesting to see where they go heading into next year, and it'll be something to really, really watch for. I know I've been hearing a lot in the news lately with Avondale, but it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But for Avondale, good year for them, great year for them. Winning the gold title for the second straight year. But they ran into a very good Wall Lake Western team, and the last 2 years has been really, really rough. I mean, the last 2 years, 90-22 was the score in the last 2 years. Considering they lost 50-22 last year to Wall Lake Western. So the last 2 years actually has been 92. It's been 94 to 22. So it'll be interesting to see what direction Avondale goes. But we're gonna see where they're at next year. I mean, so it'll be something to really, really watch for with the Yellow Jackets going forward there. Let's go to Division 4 now. Harper Woods. When you look at the Pioneers, hard fought game against Dearborn Divine Child. Winning that one 40-21. The game was a lot closer than the score indicated. Dearborn Divine Child, they had Harper Woods, on the ropes a couple times. So they really did. Don't get me wrong. Nate Washel had a nice game. Dakota Garant had a big one. I know they had a pick 6 for a touchdown. Garant, his play was just insane. He had a one-handed interception, sealing the deal for Coach Rob Oden's team. So now Harper Woods moves on to take on Macomb Lutheran North. And that should be a really interesting game between the Crusaders and the Pioneers over at Harper Woods. So when I look at that game against Dearborn Divine Child, obviously you look at, Divine Child playing in the Catholic League. That's one of the toughest leagues in the state. And Harper Woods, you got to give credit where credit's due here. Especially to Marcelo Vini. He had a heck of a game. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in that game against Harper Woods. I don't know what the game plan was for Coach Oden to handle with Vidi. But you got to give credit where credit's due, though. Harper Woods, they found a way. It was almost similar to the Week 1 game against Redford Union, where Harper Woods really struggled early on. They were trailing. They were in a tight game with Redford Union. And that's Week 1. We're not talking the playoff game here. But it was 21-21 at one point, and then they had to play the next day, and Harper Woods ended up outscoring Redford Union 22-0 on route to a 43-21 win in Week 1. So it was very, very similar to that. And, so you really look at that scenario for Harper Woods, you know what I mean? it's kind of like, you've been battle tested, you've seen the experience, you won the Division 4 state championship last year, but if you're Coach Oden, you're gonna have to have more consistency going forward. Because if you don't, you know what I mean, then you're gonna have those type of games where you experience those where you struggle early, and then you can't and sometimes those can be really really tough situations to claw out of. So for Coach Oden, there's a lot of challenges. Looking forward to this matchup with Macomb Lutheran North. I mean, considering on the other side, you got Hazlitt taking on Goodrich. Of course, Hazlitt's coming off that big upset of Chelsea. Goodrich, we know they've been they had a really tough matchup this past week. I mean, Goodrich ends up getting a home game against Hazlitt. So for Harper Woods, their path, it's still a tough path. Don't get me wrong. I mean, everything looks to be a clear collision course with Goodrich. So that'll be really interesting. We're going to preview that game with Macomb Lutheran North later on this podcast. So we're going to look at that one. But for Harper Woods, moving on, that is a big deal for them. So we'll look forward there when we'll look forward to their game with Macomb Lutheran North, but they knocked off a heck of a Dearborn Devon Child team who knocked off Aston Heights Lamphere in the first round of the playoffs. So that was a big win for Coach Oden and his team. But there's still a long way to go for Coach Oden and his team as they get ready for the matchups ahead. So we'll see how that one goes there for them. On to Division 2, Orchard Lake St. Mary's knocked off Farmington 51-0. This game really was not indicative of Farmington's season. It really wasn't. Farmington's battled through injuries. They've had to overcome a lot of things this year. And, basically knocking off Lakeland was big for this program, for Coach Jason Albright's team. I think, running into Orchard Lake St. Mary's, they're kind of, for Farmington, they fell in the same fate that North Farmington did when North Farmington had to play Orchard Lake St. Mary's in the first round. And it was going to be a really difficult matchup for both of them, especially when you look at a team like Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who's played in the Catholic League, who's played against teams of the caliber of Birmingham Brother Rice, Warren D. LaSalle, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Then going in the Toledo area, playing those type of teams. I mean, it was going to be a really difficult matchup for Farmington, considering the fact that, Orchard Lake St. Mary's has played a tougher schedule than Farmington. And it was also the same thing with North Farmington, too. I mean, kind of the same way where those teams had to play almost a similar type of situation to where the schedule looked. And, so when you look at what happened there, there's really nothing you can say. I mean, when I looked at the scores on Twitter, I'm going oh boy, you know what I mean? Orchard Lake St. Mary's got in the end zone, and then 10 minutes later, they got in again. I mean, and it was clear on that day at Falcon Field. I mean, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, they took advantage of their chances and their opportunities, and, and look what happened there. So, for Farmington, they had an incredible year. I mean, early in the year, they had some key injuries. I mean, Julian Johnson going down was a big loss for them. They muscled their way through, getting to the, and then getting into the playoffs and then knocking off Lakeland, which was big at the time. So, so when you look at Farmington's season, I think it was a very successful one for them. For Coach Albright, I hope he uses this getting into the district final as a stepping stone to getting into the for Farmington football heading in the future, obviously with district championships, with regional championships. I mean, that's really where I think would be the key to go for Coach Albright and the Falcons. Farmington, I think they're going to be fine. I mean, they had a senior heavy group this year. I mean, their juniors are very good. So we're going to see what happens with Farmington. But I think for me, when I look at the Falcons, the future is bright for this team. It really is. So we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens when it comes to realignment. We're going to see what happens when it comes to division. So we'll see what happens as we for Farmington. But they had a really nice year. They had a really, really good year. And that is going to be really interesting to see how that one goes. Groves and Seaholm, this matchup really wasn't really close. You look at, of course, the, that score was 36-7 in favor of Groves, avenging what happened last year. For Groves, they outscored Seaholm this year 71-7. So that kind of tells you something right there when you look at Groves. Robert Woods has really played well. Ryan Counts has really played well. Found proven receivers. Noah Sanders has played great. Mariano Luciano, he's played well. Avery Guy. But when I look at Groves' scenario, their test is going to be this week when they play Warren De La Salle. That's going to be their test coming up, and I think that's going to be where you can judge them. That's really where, you could say, well, we're 11-0 and all that, but this is going to be the test. Because if Groves can win this game against Warren De La Salle, it would not surprise me if they go to Ford Field. It really would not surprise me, considering, on the other side of the bracket, you got Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, and Gibraltar Carlson going against each other. On the other side. But if Orchard Lake St. Mary's if Groves wins this game, it would not surprise me if they go to Ford Field. That's how confident I am with this team. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, with Groves, this is the week that they've been pointing to. Getting ready for this game, getting ready for this opportunity. Obviously getting by Ferndale, then knocking off Seaholm. This is going to be the test to see where they're at. I'll talk more about this game in a little bit later on the podcast. So we'll see how this one goes. But for Groves, outscoring your arch rival 71-7 after a rough year last year, falling to the same program twice. So kind of a good way for Coach Brendan Flaherty to, get things, go in the right direction as they move forward. Let's look at Seaholm. When I look at the Maples, it was going to be tough regardless, even if they got into the playoffs. And, a lot of people look at the 7-0 start and, and say actually the 6-0 start and say, what is Seaholm doing? Are they riding a lot on house money? Are they riding a lot on, when you look at the win Seaholm had, it was big at the time when they knocked off when they knocked off Farmington. But when they were not the same team after the fourth quarter of the North Farmington game. They were not the same team. They lost 3 of 4 to close out the year. They were shellacked by West Bloomfield. And then Groves beat him twice. And then they had that impressive win against Warren Mott. So when I look at Seaholm, it was an interesting year for them. Penn Roberts had a big year. They had some really nice pieces on that team over there. Coach Jimmy Wald has done a really nice job building that program, building that talent. And they've done a really nice job building that foundation. You look at everybody thought this year, and I will admit I'm one of those guys that admitted heading into the year that I thought personally that Seaholm was going to have a really down year, considering who they lost, considering, the experience. I didn't know what to expect with them. And then they come up to the number 3 spot in the rankings, and look what they've done. They've surprised in my opinion, I thought they've exceeded expectations for me because I didn't expect Seaholm to be a team that would get in the playoffs, considering everything that they've lost. And what they have. I mean, Coach Jim DeWald's built a program over there. He has built something over there at Seaholm where they have just really, kept the pedal to the metal, building on program strength. They've really done a nice job building on the foundation over there in Birmingham. And there's a lot to look forward to next year for Seaholm. Don't know what division they're going to be in. I think it would be a division where I think it would either probably be, if it were up to me, if I had to decide the alignment or anything like that, I don't have any say when it comes to alignment. But I think, honestly, I would love to see Seaholm and Groves in the same division. I think that would be really, really interesting because I know they play every year. Week 9 in the white. Play week 9. They play week 9 every year. No matter what division they're in. But it would be really interesting to see if they were in the same division. I think it would be really interesting. I know, obviously, you look at with Groves and with Davidson and Lapeer, both those two teams, they play each other week 9. Being in the fact they're both in the same division in the Saginaw Valley. So, I think it would be really interesting if Groves and Seaholm were to be in the same division. I think it would be interesting. I think Seaholm's done more than enough in the last 2 years to go into that division. So, in this game, last 2 matches for Groves against Seaholm, it wasn't close. Now, albeit you look at next year, Groves loses everybody. They lose everybody. And this is a senior-heavy Groves team. So, we'll see. We'll see. Seaholm's got a lot coming back. So, we're going to see what happens over there. So that'll be something to really, really watch for going forward as we look into it. Obviously in the heart of Division 2. So, Groves moves on, winning over Seaholm. They're going to move on to play Warren DSL on Friday night. So, we'll see how that goes. We shall see how that one goes. And then let's go to Division 1. We're going to first talk about Novi Detroit Catholic Central 41-14 against West Bloomfield. I knew it was going to be a really tall order. But really, when I look at this game here, I kind of thought West Bloomfield's mistakes really did them in. The turnovers, the 2 fumbles, led to touchdowns. When you're playing a team like Novi Detroit Catholic Central, you have to play clean, disciplined football. And you look at West Bloomfield's defense all year long. There were some moments they looked really good, but then there were some moments you're going what are you doing? So, in a game like this against Novi Detroit Catholic Central, I wouldn't have to say West Bloomfield had to play perfect against them. Almost pretty close to it. I admit it. I even thought last week, I thought West Bloomfield had a chance to knock off CC, considering, you look at what CC's done historically. But what CC did to West Bloomfield was basically took advantage of their mistakes, and then they just basically just ran over. That's really what they did. And then defensively, they know Bo Jackson. Of course, Bo Jackson played at Novi Detroit Catholic Central last year. So you kind of had a feeling, where this was going to go. And it was going to go either a tight West Bloomfield win or it was going to get really ugly really quick. And it got ugly quick. So when I look at the game and I look at how that matchup went, defensively, West Bloomfield, they were very young all year. They were very young all year long. Offensively was West Bloomfield's bright spots. You had Elijah Durham. You got Cam Flowers. Both of them are going to D1 schools. Bo Jackson had a nice year. Josh Hay also had a really nice year. I'm curious to see what college he's going. Be curious to see what college he's going. I gotta ask Tyler Kitt about that. I really do. But when I look at the Lakers season, big win against Chippewa Valley earlier in the year. I kind of thought, the Lake Orion game was the one that got them in the playoffs. They had that win against Seaholm, and then they knocked off, and then had that tough loss to Roseville, but they went in and absolutely devoured Novi. So for Coach Jack Hilbers and his team, there's going to be a lot of question marks. But next year, they do return Jamal Shakespeare at quarterback. I really think, honestly, for him, I think for West Bloomfield, Shakespeare is going to be the guy over at West Bloomfield. He's going to be the guy. I mean, he kind of fits that offense a lot more better than what Jackson did. And I'm not knocking on Jackson, but I really thought, honestly, Shakespeare, he was the guy that really did everything for them. I mean, he really was the one who, put everything together. He was the one that really, he's quick, uses his feet a lot. He's more of that typical Rick Nance type quarterback. And I know a lot of great Laker quarterbacks that have gone through there. Bryce Beasley is one of my favorites. CJ Harris is another one. But when you look at Laker quarterbacks, I mean, I think it's just having the running aspect of it, because I know West Bloomfield's a team that loves to run the RPO. I mean, Bo Jackson had a great arm. Don't get me wrong, he has a great arm, a fantastic arm. But I just didn't think he had the running abilities of like what a Jamal Shakespeare has. But when I look at next year for West Bloomfield, they're going to be fine. I mean, they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be just fine. So we'll see what happens going forward. We're going to see what happens with them. I mean, but I expect West Bloomfield to be back next year, clicking on all cylinders. So we'll see what happens. Grand Blanc 29, Oxford 7. This was I was surprised at the score of this game, considering, what Oxford's been doing all year long. Grand Blanc, you got to give Grand Blanc's defense a lot of credit here. They shut down Luke Johnson. They really forced Jack Hendricks to dare to beat him. Hendricks threw, I think he threw 2 interceptions. And then they had, and then they just, Grand Blanc offensively, defensively made stops, especially when Oxford had deep, long drives that were time-consuming drives. And then Grand Blanc took advantage, had a big game with their wide receivers. Their running back had a nice game. Quarterback was solid. So when I look at that game, it was more of, Grand Blanc winning that compared to Oxford losing it. And I really think in that one, it just Grand Blanc showed why, they're the number 1 seed in their district. The fact of the matter is, they just went and, they actually, they did just enough against a really good Oxford defense, and they shut down Oxford offensively. So, so there's a lot, when I look at Oxford, I really think that the Wildcats, they had their moments. They had their moments of trying to get back in the game, but they had a costly turnover or a 4th down, or a 4th down, where they couldn't stay on the field. But credit's due for Grand Blanc. I mean, Grand Blanc won that game. And Oxford, I didn't think lost it, but I just thought Grand Blanc just went in there and won it. So when I look at the year for Oxford, winning their first league championship since 2007 when they were in the Flint Metro League, when they won the Red this year. Then they, getting into the playoffs. Then they go and stun Davison. That says a lot right there. I mean, that really says a lot to where, you give credit where credit's due in that matchup. I mean, what Oxford did against Davison was really incredible what they did. Kind of really, they really took Davison out of their tempo, and they slowed the game down. I know Oxford tried that against Grand Blanc, but Grand Blanc was ready for it. And then, you look at Oxford this year. Oxford, honestly, when I look at them, it was going to be hard for them to come back in that game against Grand Blanc once Grand Blanc had the lead. And what they did to Luke Johnson was absolutely incredible because not a lot of teams have been able to stop Luke Johnson. And what Grand Blanc's defense did was they stopped Luke Johnson, and it showed. It clearly showed, in that game. So, for Oxford, incredible year. They lose a lot. I mean, they lose, you lose guys like Luke Johnson, Drew Cady. You lose the majority of that line. You lose Jake Champagne. I mean, the only guys coming back, look like coming back is going to be is Jack Hendricks and Eli Tabbert. So Oxford does lose a lot of talent. So that'll be something to really keep an eye on going forward is where does Oxford go from here? I mean, program strength looks solid for them, but it'll be something to watch in the future for Coach Zach Lyon and his team on his program. So that'll be something to really watch. But for Oxford, in a nice year, but they just got to get by that district championship hump. They got to get by that. If they can, then who knows what's going to happen. I mean, Wildcat football right now, it's been on the map, and it's going to be on the map for a long, long time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Adams 41, Clarkston nothing. I talked about this game with my co-host Ian Locke about this game. And I'm still trying to look for the words to describe this game. Considering you look at what Adams has and considering what Clarkson has. And I think about that game. It was eerily similar. And it was something similar that I watched when Lake Orion played Adams in freshman football. It was eerily similar. Where Adams would score first. Then Clarkson throws an interception. And then Adams gets another touchdown. All that in a span of 30 seconds. All that in a span of 30 seconds. So basically, you start off the game down 14-0. If you're Adams' case, you're up 14-0. It allows you to be creative. You can introduce the speed option to go along with that veer option that Coach Tony Petrino does. And then you look at quarterback. Quarterback play was been really good for Adams. Especially Mr. Ferris. Ever since Ryland Waters went down, Ferris has done a really nice job. Really has. And then you look at the play of Mateo Humbert. He had a monster game against Clarkson. He had 3 touchdowns. But I think the big part of it, you got to look at, is that junior class at Adams. I knew coming in when they were freshmen, they were going to be a special class. They were going to be really, really special. And this was a class that went unbeaten their freshman year. This was the same class that went unbeaten. And that says a lot. That says a lot. If you want to look at the interview with Coach Tony Petrino, I have that on the YouTube page, the ONTV YouTube page. I should send a link out. I really should. But what they did to Clarkson was just, I'll be honest with you, I flat out wasn't surprised they did that. I was surprised about the score of that. I was really surprised. Because Adams basically they just beat him in all phases of that game. They just beat him in all phases. I mean, you look at the touchdown off the read option where Ferris throws the ball, and then he goes around, and then the wide receiver goes around 80 yards, touchdown. 21-0. 21-0. I want to know what the heck did Adams do to Clarkson offensively. because this is the second time now they have shut down Clarkston. I mean, you shut them down and you beat them. Like, how do I describe this? 69-10 was the score in both meetings. The first meeting was 28-10 in favor of Adams. This was 41-0. How did they shut the Bowman twins down? How did they shut down Alex Wachesco? How? It was stunning. And to see what Clarkson did against Lake Orion, I'm going like, wow. I'm going like, jeez. I still can't believe it. I honestly still can't believe that game. I honestly can't. I'm still speechless about the score. And then I think about the Lake Orion freshman game against Adams, actually. Same thing happened. Same exact thing happened. Where Adams got out to a hot start, got a turnover, and then 3 plays later, Lisa with a touchdown. So that kind of tells you the story. But I was shocked that Adams got a running clock on him. I didn't expect that. Really did not expect that at all. I mean, they picked apart Clarkson's defense. And I know the Veer's a very tough offense to stop, but when they impose the speed option part of it, you're in trouble. So that's what happened here. And when you look at Adams, they can move on to take on Grand Blanc. I want to talk Clarkson here for a minute. Clarkson had a lot of expectation coming in the year. You return both Bowman twins. You had a question at quarterback, which was solved. Alex Wachenko took over. You got Nick Mulhaney there. Mulhaney becomes your deep threat next year. But you lose some key pieces on that defense. You lose Brady Beck, that's going to be a big loss. You do have the Bowman twins coming back. You got Flavin leading the offensive line. So there's pieces there at Clarkson. There really is. Program strength looks to be solid too. Really does. So for Clarkson, their future is they're going to be strong next year. I mean, they're going to be really strong. And I think they're going to have I think for them, it's going to have a chip on the shoulder. That's really going to be the thing. Because there's no way that Adams is 41 points better than them. There's no way. And the fact the last 2 times they played, Adams outscored Clarkson 69-10. That you can't explain. You can't explain it. And you have two of the best running backs in the state, in Griffin and Lucas Bowman. So we'll see. We'll see. I know next year's game is going to be at Clarkson. I know next year's game between those two teams will be at Clarkson. Adams will have a lot of experience. So will Clarkson. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens in that game. We will see. Before I talk the regional for football here, I want to break down some volleyball a little bit here. Obviously in the we have 2 teams left in the OAA right now. We got Clarkston taking on Birmingham Orion over at West Bloomfield. On the other side, you got South Lyon taking on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And then on Division II, you got Ferndale taking on Detroit Edison. And then on the other side, you got Dearborn Divine Child taking on Detroit Cesar Chavez Academy. So when I look at those matchups, I really think over at Dearborn Divine Child, I really like Dearborn Divine Child to win that region. I just think they're the home team. They tougher part of the schedule. So I really like the Falcons to move on there in that one. And And then over at West Bloomfield, I could see a Birmingham Marion Orchard Lake St. Mary's regional final. I just don't think that Clarkston has enough against Birmingham Marion. I'd be shocked if they upset Birmingham Marion, but I just don't see it. So in that one, I'm gonna take it's gonna be. I think Birmingham Marion still a team to beat. I think Orchard Lake St. Mary's will fight in that game, but end of the day, I just think the Mustangs will move on and win that regional. So that's my take on volleyball there. Let's now go and preview the football. The football regionals. 3 teams remain in the OAA. Starting off with Harper Woods taking on Macomb Lutheran North. I do apologize. Last week I did say Marysville by mistake. So I do owe everybody an apology of what I said last week. Especially those at Macomb Lutheran North. So you know how that goes. But Harper Woods against Macomb Lutheran North. Obviously, Macomb Lutheran North's got a really good running back, a really talented back. He had 7 touchdowns, which was their school record against St. Clair in the first round. So that should be an interesting ball game between the Eaglets and the Crusaders and the Pioneers. Harper Woods, we know, has got all those athletes. Nate Washlow back helps his team a lot. I know Dakota Garant's been seeing some time. They're kind of using him more of like a Stephon Buford type. Even though I'm not being mean to Coach Oden and all that, I still view Garant as more of a wide receiver and a defensive back. I know he's an all-around athlete, but and Garant's had to play quarterback a couple times when Washington went out. So when I look at Harper Woods in that game, I think Harper Woods looks, they should be in good shape. But Macomb Lutheran North's not an easy team. They won the Catholic League lower division for a reason. So they're a dangerous team. They are a really, really dangerous team. And they're coming off an emotional 43-42 overtime win against Croswell Lex. Where they needed a 2-point conversion to win that game. Basically, credit where credit's due. Credit their coach for calling it, first of all. But for Harper Woods, obviously winning that tough district, knocking off Redford Union on the road, and then winning a hard-fought game against Dearborn Devon Child. It says a lot right there. It really does when you look at Harper Woods. Where they're at, and credit where credit's due, the Pioneers, the way they played and won that game. So we'll see how that one goes. We will see how that one goes for sure. When you look at Harper Woods taking on Macomb Lutheran North this upcoming Friday night over at Harper Woods for a 7 p.m. kickoff in the Division IV regional final. With the winner, most likely you're seeing Hazlitt or Goodrich. A lot of people have been looking at maybe a rematch between Goodrich and Harper Woods. That could be a really interesting matchup between those 2 teams. So we'll see how that one goes. But Harper Woods, obviously for them, it's just, taking it one game at a time and knowing Coach Oden, like I do, he'll have his team ready for that game against Macomb Lutheran North. So we'll see how that one goes. Then we go to Division II. We got Groves and Warren DeSalle. This is the game that I've been asking for. This is the game. This is the prove me game for Coach Brendan Flaherty's team. This is the prove me game. Warren DeSalle has been through 2 different counties. Now they're going to go in the 3rd. Because that game's in Beverly Hills in Oakland County. Now, this is the show-me game for Groves. Warren DeSalle went in the Port Huron Northern. Destroyed the Huskies. Last week, they knocked out the number 1, the team that had the most playoff points in Division II, which was Groves Point South. Won that by 2 touchdowns. Now, they come into Beverly Hills. For Groves, this is the biggest game of your career. This is the biggest game for several reasons. If you want to get to Ford Field, you have to win this game. That's how you look at it if you're Coach Brendan Flaherty, and that's how you look at it if you're Groves. You look at, when you get to the state semifinals, who have you ran into? Warren De La Salle. And De La Salle usually blows them out. When I look at, this is the game where I think for all Groves fans, all Falcon fans, you got it. If you want to get to Ford Field, you have to win this game. You got to. Because this has usually been the team, them or Detroit Martin Luther King, has usually been where Groves usually fails. This has usually been where. And I know Warren De La Salle's had better talent than Groves, but I think this is the year you can get Warren De La Salle. This is not a vintage pilot team. This is really not. And this is a very senior-heavy Falcon team who's got proven athletes, got a quarterback who's steady, you got great receivers, 2 good running backs, very good line, your defense is solid. I mean, you got everything made. Now you just got to go out there and prove it. So this is a show me game for Groves. This is, I'll be honest with you, their undefeated record, they got some nice wins. But this is the test. This is the test for the Falcons. This is the test to prove, do they belong? That is going to be the test. Then we have Grand Blanc at Adams. This should be an interesting matchup. Because Grand Blanc has never seen a veer this season. They have not seen a team run a veer. And Adams is the masters of it. They are. And they don't have their starting quarterback. But you have a running back in Mateo Humbert. Your line's really played well. You've got a lot of proven talent with Adams. A lot of proven talent. And their junior class has stepped up. Forgot to mention that. And your defense has been very good. Your defense held a Clarkson team to 0. That says a lot right there. Really does. Should be an interesting matchup. Oh, Grand Blake's got a really good quarterback. They got 2 really good receivers. And their defense is not bad, but I don't think their defense has seen a veer. I really don't think they've seen a veer like what they're going to see. It should be a really interesting matchup. It will really be an interesting matchup between those two teams. So, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's go our projections for the week here. Harper Woods against Macomb Lutheran North. I'm going to take the Pioneers in this one. I just think Harper Woods has, I think the Pioneers have enough experience here. They're going to do just enough. I think they're going to shut down the Crusaders running game. And I think the schedule here is going to be really important here. I just think at the end of the day, I think the schedule is going to prove a lot when you look at Harper Woods. So I'm going to take the Pioneers and knock off Macomb Lutheran North and get the state semifinals. I just think Harper Woods got way too many weapons. I don't think they have an answer for Dakota Grant. DeAndre Bitten's a nice player for Harper Woods. I don't think Macomb Lutheran North's going to have an answer for them. So I really like the Pioneers in that one against the Crusaders. Division 2. Warren De La Salle and Groves. Is this the game, the breakthrough moment for Coach Brendan Flaherty and the Falcons? Is this the breakthrough moment? You have De La Salle coming to Beverly Hills. The Pilots are coming off 2 road wins. They've been road warriors. They're well coached. They're well schemed, well prepared. I know Coach Flaherty says he and his staff, you know what I mean, there's times that they've had poor coaching. I don't believe that one bit. I really don't. You got experience. They got experience. This is the now or never part for Groves. Do they belong? Because if they win this game, I think they're going to Ford Field if they win this game. Because they do match up well with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And they do match up well with Gibraltar Carlson. But this is the game they got to get. This is the game they got to get. I think this is the game they get. And I think they win this tight. Groves hasn't really been as tested as much as Warren de La Salle has. So it sets up to be a really interesting matchup. But I think Groves will find a way in this game. I think Noah Sanders has the game of his life in this game. I think he does. And I think Ryan Counts plays consistent. This could be eerily similar to the Lions game. This could be similar. We'll see. But I got Groves winning this one against De La Salle. I like the Falcons in this one. We'll see how that one goes. And then last but not least, we got Adams taking on Grand Blanc. I like Adams in this one. I just think that the veer option, the speed option, will be too much for the Bobcats. Adams' offense is a different animal. But I think the difference is going to be that junior class of Adams. I think Coach Petrino's done a really nice job with that program. I think the junior class shows why. You know, they're going to be there for the next 2 years. I think the difference is that junior class. And I think they're going to be the big difference. So, I like Adams in that game against Grand Blanc. I think you're going to move on to your take on Hudsonville or Howell, which would be a really interesting matchup between those two teams. Hudsonville has not looked like themselves lately, whereas Howell is the best. Was right now ranked one of the best teams in Division I. So we'll see in there, but I like Adams in that one against Grand Blanc. I think they're going to move on to the state semifinals, so it'll be really interesting to see how that one goes. All right, now, I know it's the start of winter sports, start basketball season, obviously. I know Media Day's coming up over there. We will be there. We'll be there. We will have a special preview show for both boys and girls basketball coming up sometime next week. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at SaginawBay4650 at blogspot.com for the latest information around the OAA. Also, you make sure follow me on the blog on Twitter at Saginaw Bay. We'll see what happens going forward. All right, we're going to sign off here. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next week, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you all next week. God bless all.